I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars. It's 2024, this is the 70th anniversary of Volkswagen selling cars here in Australia, and it's going to celebrate that birthday by starting to sell a bunch of electric and electrified products in this market. And the first to arrive will be this big beast here. This is the new Touareg R plug-in hybrid. It's a petrol V6 under the bonnet, paired with a pretty beefy electric motor and battery, which is going to give you just over 50 kilometers of all-electric running, or if you want to drive this performance SUV as a hybrid, 340 kilowatts of combined power, 700 Newton meters of combined torque. Today, I'm going to take you around the new Touareg R. We'll talk about the special features you get on this model. We'll check out the interior and the specs of this vehicle, and I'll let you know a little bit more about the forthcoming Touareg update and Volkswagen's new EVs along the way. But before we get started, hit subscribe below. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by Budget Direct. Well, you join me today here in Volkswagen Australia's photo studio because they've got this early example of the Aussie spec Touareg R available for me to play with today, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, starting by going under this rather long bonnet. Now, the Touareg's a bit of a unique Volkswagen because it actually shares its platform with a bunch of vehicles from the class above. So Audi Q7, Q8, Bentley Bentayga, Lamborghini Urus, Porsche Cayenne, vehicles like that, rear biased, all-wheel drive SUVs. And so it goes for the Touareg. But this is the first time this generation of the SUV has been seen in Australia with a petrol engine at its heart, V6 TSI, as is written on this enormous beauty cover on the 3-litre turbocharged engine in this car. Now, by itself, the engine makes 250 kilowatts of power, which is certainly decent shove and more than you can get on the V6 diesels that are sold here in Australia and will continue to be sold in 170 kilowatt and 210 kilowatt formats for our market. But the Touareg R's trick is that it's also paired with a 100 kilowatt, 400 Newton meter electric motor, which can drive this vehicle as an EV for 51 kilometers WLTP. Of course, we will be testing that claim when we get our hands on the car properly in a couple of months, or you can run it in hybrid mode and enjoy what works out to be 340 kilowatts of combined power, which certainly sounds like decent shove. The front end of the facelift Touareg is also a little bit sharper and cleaner than before. These matrix LED headlights will be standard on all models for the Touareg, including the repositioned 170 TDI and 210 TDI models. The 210's available as a luxury elegance trim or as an R line. So expect all of those Touaregs to get quite a lot cheaper from where they retail at now, which is certainly something to look forward to and making it easier for people that might have a Tiguan now to step up into one of these vehicles. But of course, because this is the R, you have a filled-in chrome R here. The trick is real Volkswagen R products have a full chrome R, whereas R-line products actually just have the outline of the R. So there's a little train spotting fact for you. The grille also incorporates this LED light strip now as well, and being the R, we've got lots of gloss black inserts down here on the front apron, so it looks pretty mean. Working our way down the side of the Touareg R, the way you'll tell this top spec model is, well, if you see one in lapis blue, that's exclusive to this grade, but you'll also notice these big 22-inch black wheels, and you've got an R blue caliper behind there on the 19-inch brake discs on this SUV, so expecting it to stop pretty well despite being quite heavy. The black pack also extends to the mirrors and also your daylight surround here on the windows and your roof rails, which have a pretty cool feature, which if you get the Volkswagen Genuine Accessory roof bars fitted, it will actually detect the weight of the load that you've put on the roof, and then the car adjusts its stability control tune. So the ESC will be a little bit less conservative with no roof load than the outgoing car, a little bit more conservative if your center of gravity is getting up there. This is where your petrol filler is going to be, but I want to check out the same thing on the other side, which is where you juice this SUV up. So you put your petrol in around the other side, but beneath this cap is actually a Type 2 socket because this is a plug-in hybrid. So it's really designed for people who have garages and who will drive this vehicle on electric power while commuting during the weekdays and then use this vehicle's big V6 petrol engine to support their ability to drive further afield on the weekends. That's the traditional recipe for plug-in hybrids, but it's so powerful here in the Touareg R that Volkswagen says, well, this is a full-fat performance SUV. We'll be the judge of that. Looking forward to driving that in a couple of months' time. But the basic specs are This thing's good for 51 kilometers of range WLTP, maybe a little bit more in the city, certainly less on the highway. Again, we'll be conducting tests on that. For me, the only two things that really matter about a PHEV are how far can you get on electric power and what's the fuel consumption on a dead battery. We're expecting it to be maybe 9 litres per 100 Ks in combined driving. Again, that will all be revealed in our full test on the road, so subscribe to see that one. Of course, the other relevant thing is the charging time. You can plug this vehicle into a traditional household socket here in Australia and get it from 0 to 100% in about 8 hours, which is really good. But it can also take 7 kilowatts from a wall box, reducing your charge time to 2.5. Jumping up into the cabin of the 2024 Touareg R, it feels pretty plush for a VW interior, as it should be, because this is the flagship version of the flagship model in Volkswagen's Australian lineup. Now, we actually know the interior of the Touareg was meant to be twinned with a new generation Phaeton full-size sedan many years ago. That car never happened, but it's why the interior of the Touareg is such an odd one out compared to every other vehicle Volkswagen makes. This car is special, and the massive infotainment screens really ram home that message when you jump up into the cabin of one of these babies. You got a huge 15-inch slate over here in front of you, and then a massive 12-inch screen in front of you as well. And they present really beautifully. They always have, because these screens were available on the Touareg before the facelift, and they've continued now with cleaner, easier to use software, plus wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that now fills the whole screen. It used to be this little letterbox view, so nice to know that that's been fixed. Still a DIN Audio premium stereo here in the R version as standard, as well as is this high-grade charcoal leather that you get in this performance variant of the car. You've got an interesting pattern on the top of the seats, R and blue stitching embossed into it, and heating and cooling is also fitted, which is fantastic. Plus leather steering wheel with paddle shifters for the 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission in this car. Little R divots there as well. Everything looks and feels good and better than before, because material quality was a little bit middling before the 2024 update, but Volkswagen has now fitted soft materials here to the center console and a couple of other places just to really finish off what is meant to be quite a premium product. And the fact that you're getting most of this stuff included in the new base model Touareg, which we're expecting, or in fact we know, will be priced under $90,000 before on-road costs, is even more impressive, because this is a nice step beyond any Tiguan. This definitely feels like it's in a class of its own. The seats too are very comfortable, loads of electric adjustment and power lumbar. You've got memory, lots of storage in this cabin. It feels big, wide, and pretty luxurious. Here in the back seat of the Touareg R, it's plenty spacious enough for adults. I'm 6 foot or 183 centimeters. Headroom's good for me. Legroom's good. Toe room is also good. And I think you could get someone here in the center without issue. What you can't do is get people into a third row, because the Touareg doesn't have one. That's a little bit of a shortcoming of every generation of Touareg, all of which have been 5-seaters. Volkswagen Australia doesn't see it as a demerit, but the simple fact is VW just don't have a big 3-row SUV to sell you here in Australia. They do have the Tiguan Allspace. That's a stretched mid-size SUV. So if you want more space than this, you really are going to have to go up to something like an Audi Q7 if you like the technology, but that car doesn't have a PHEV option here in Australia. So if you're happy with 2 rows, you want the size, you want the extra power, you want the stance of this vehicle, well, it certainly could suit you. Plus there are some amenities back here. All that nice quality leather persists, as do air vents, heated outboard seats, nice material quality, and even things like built-in sunblinds, which are always nice. And finally, we come to the back end of the new Touareg R, and this is probably going to be where you'll notice the biggest change aesthetically for the facelift of this generation of SUV. And that's because the tail lights have actually now been joined together, and they've got this red LED light strip running through, but also an illuminated badge here at the back, which is pretty extra. Not sure it's really to my taste, but certainly at night you'll know that you're driving behind a Volkswagen and no other car. You do just get a nice simple little R badge here as well, and E-Hybrid, because that is the way Volkswagen globally brands its plug-in hybrids, even though this is the only E-Hybrid on sale here in Australia for the brand. Opening up the power tailgate, you can also do a kick to open or close for this vehicle. Power door gets out of your way and reveals a big boot. The load height of the vehicle isn't too bad, but you can actually drop the rear end height on the air suspension to make it even easier to lift heavy things into the back. You've got a nice sort of faux leather cargo cover, which is tasteful. You've got the ability to drop your rear seats here, 40, 20, 40. You've also got a little neat charging bag for your cables. Volkswagen's going to throw in your household charging cable and your Type 2 cable with this vehicle, but what you don't have underneath the boot floor is a spare wheel of any kind. Instead, you've just got a goo kit and a tire compressor for this vehicle. So in terms of remote road tripping and stuff like that, you're probably going to be better off in one of the diesel versions of this car, which at the very least have a space saver spare, which is better than nothing. So obviously the proof will be in the driving of this new Touareg R plug-in hybrid. The Volkswagen Group typically does a nice, smooth, good to drive PHEV system, certainly better than some out there. But I'm keen to see whether this big SUV really lives up to what an R should be. I'm a big fan of the Golf R, for instance. I do like the T-Roc R and I don't mind the Tiguan R. How will it work in the full size package? We're going to find out in a couple of months' time, so ensure you subscribe for that. But based on what I've been able to see today here in the studio statically, really like the changes to the facelifted Touareg and the fact that the diesel models are also going to be more affordable than before, despite getting a bunch of new tech and nice materials inside. Well, that sounds pretty good to me. Let me know what you think down below this video in the comments. While you're there, hit subscribe and the notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.